Okay. Let's call the May 9th, 2024 meeting to order at 8:42. Any changes or additions to the agenda? Is there a motion?
I'll move to set the agenda as presented.
I'll support.
There's a motion by Tom, support by John to accept the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Is that the right count? Yeah. Introductions and guests. I think we all know everybody here today. And then anyone online? Jim Eskin is remote, as is Peter. I think that was Sherry.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we have quorum, that's all.
Yes, we have 6. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Next item is acceptance of the April 11th, 2024 draft minutes.
Support.
Steve. Yep. There's a motion and a second to accept the minutes from April 11th as presented. A motion by Jeff and second by Steve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Any public comment this morning? Hearing none, we'll proceed to unfinished business. The first item is the utility financial policy. And last month, we had the update that the subcommittee was still working on it, and I think Peter was going to draft it. And my understanding is he's drafted it and gotten it back, and the subcommittee needs to review it again and make sure it's what they want to bring forward.
Yep, so we've gone back and forth through email, and then now we just need to set up a meeting to review what we have.
Okay.
So there's been quite a bit of progress made.
I don't think I saw Peter online to add if he has anything to add. Okay.
So the idea is that you would come back in June for approval, or just for the discussion?
At least for discussion. I don't know if we'll be ready for approval or if we want to just, we'll discuss with this group maybe if there's any questions before we move for approval.
And then it would need to go in front of city commission?
Yeah, I mean, if it's the financial policy, then it would.
Yes. Because the old one had gone to city commission, so we at least would need to.
Okay.
Good clarification. Next item is the capital improvements, the existing neighborhood policy guidelines. And this was included in the packet when there was a Appendix D amendments brought forward for this meeting. Then we realized that the neighborhood policy had never been formally adopted here. We had come to reach consensus, but we hadn't ever taken a vote on it. So we can do that today, and then a little later in the meeting, take up the amendments to Appendix D, which do align with that policy. Any questions on that, or?
And my question is a procedural question, is, so we have the policy, and it was in the city attorney's office for approval. It sounds like they have accepted it because we've got the Appendix D change. But then it needs to be codified in the ordinances at the end of the year. That's what we talked about last month. So is the Appendix D approval sort of a little cart before the horse? I mean, we got an Appendix D that is gonna reference something that's not in the ordinances. It's just sort of more of a timing thing.
I don't know the answer to that. That's a good question.
But as UPC, we can, has the city attorney's office given their blessing to the policy?
I believe so.
James?
Yes. Yeah, and just perhaps an additional comment, this is a UPC policy as written. It's kind of a bullet point policy, if you will. This needs to get brought into a public services execution policy. So, when we get the phone call that says, "Hi, I'm a neighborhood, I want to connect," there's a lot of things behind the scenes that we've got to do to make that happen. And so we'll detail that out in a policy. And we want to first get UPC vote of approval on the kind of the outline, the overarching background and support of the policy. And then with that, we'll create our internal policy on, how do we handle that phone call? How do we collect that payment? Who collects that payment? When does that payment get collected? When does the account get turned on? And then we'll coordinate that with all these other things that have to happen, including system capacity buy-in fee and the actual construction cost to connect. So we believe that we could have this item within Appendix D as a reimbursable cost, like so many of our reimbursable costs. That is something that's going to have to get looked at from time to time to give it a space, if you will, to launch from. And then in future years, the first available year would be 2025, put it in the ordinance at that point. And so that would be consistent with a lot of our other charges. You'll see things like the construction cost to connect. Some of that stuff is now in the ordinance, and it historically had not been. Again, we're trying to put more items in the ordinance to provide some additional transparency and continuity on where costs are derived from and everything else. Plus, give the city commission that authority to approve these costs as well.
Wasn't there another discussion also pertaining to local municipality or local unit of government having the opportunity to potentially assess the connection fee as an option for payment as well? So do we see a need for, once it becomes ordinance, for the city of Kalamazoo to allow other local units of government to adopt a policy of such? Would that be an action item as well going forward?
In the bullet point policy, it does talk about the local unit of government assessing for the remaining amount, because can't remember, but maybe $7,000? No, that's how much, whatever's left over. So the $7,000 does not cover a project. So there's gonna be, say, some other number that then needs to be paid for by the homeowners or the property owners. So that additional payment could be handled through an assessment district at the local level. And we do mention that. I mean, there's other ways they could do that. That's probably what would happen. And then the local would, I don't know, how are you gonna finance it, and that's getting down into the weeds.
But we do call it out in this policy, so I
Yeah,
guess
it's an
my
option.
question is, are we good with this? Maybe another recommendation from UPC for local units of government to take into consideration and take before their boards and councils. That's probably major point of the question I raised.
And those, Tom, those specific points are, there's 2 bullet points under funding that talk about those issues. And I would say, John, directly to your point, I don't think there's anything in this policy that would preclude or prevent a township from issuing a special assessment district. And again, the city, who operates the system we do not have the legal authority to issue any special assessment district outside of the city
Outside
council.
of the city, right.
But there could potentially be funding, I don't know. I'm not a bond council, so I'll keep my mouth shut. But anyway, the 2 funding things that were in this were, number one, the assessment the townships may assess for the uncovered amount, but also the townships may choose to use their fund balance, their water fund balance to subsidize or encourage those neighborhoods, to the extent that they have neighborhoods. And there's not a lot of them, so. So do we need to approve this as UPC or?
That's the consideration today, yes.
I'm good with the bullet point policy. I mean, I know we've done a lot of review on it. There's a lot of calculations on the math. It is, we are proposing a system whereby the water system would, in effect, subsidize the connection up to somebody's private house on a non-emergency matter. So that's really what the whole context of this is all about, obviously.
Yep.
So when we approve it, though, I would like either in the minute or we make it part of the motion that when and if we do the first one, that we make it a conscious effort to come back and take a look at how did that go? And does it need to be refined or tweaked? Does the math need to be changed or not? So that we do have at least a process so that we take a look at it and see if we got it right with this first one and make sure if we have to make any tweaks, we have an opportunity to do that.
And I like James's idea, it's a bullet point, but he's gonna manage a large portion of this. So I think that it's appropriate that we approve this as UPC as a concept. And then let James put it together as a working model. And then the first one comes through, let's just pay attention, and then I don't know that we would need to change the concept, but maybe the model of implementation, so that we make sure that we are accomplishing the concept, but still being able to do it in an efficient and orderly way.
I'd just like to follow up on that discussion of both Jeff, Tom, and the responsibility of James of making this happen. This is a very important accomplishment, and I'm gonna vote for it. There's a lot of moving pieces here. There's a lot of different jurisdictions who are kind of examining it and trying to figure out how that fits in with their needs, services to the community plus the financing. And I think there's enough flexibility in here for the units of government to look at, well, do we assess the properties to pay for the remaining piece, or do we, they can experiment that internally, locally. They have a lot of opportunities to go that way. So definitely support this. I think it's done a lot of work, the committee does, and the subcommittee. This is a great piece of work, and it's one of my biggest questions as to how we would handle this. So I think we've done an excellent job.
Is that a motion?
Sure, I will motion to accept this with the understanding that as we move forward, especially the first round, that we revisit how it worked, both on behalf of the utility department and local jurisdiction that did it internally.
Support?
There's a motion by Mark and support by Tom to accept the policy as presented and to revisit the policy after the first implementation project. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Any other capital improvements, updates, or? This is on here as various. I don't know if there's anything that pertinent to the UPC at this time. The next item, 6C, is this periodic review items, and there's a brief memo. Apologies, the second part of an older memo didn't get deleted, so really it's just the first half of the first page there that pertains to this, and then the actual agenda items table is ahead of that memo in the packet, and rather than including these on the agenda all the time, I'm thinking that we could develop a table of those items that come back to us periodically. And this is certainly a draft, and we can amend it as we go along. Any suggestions, changes?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, it gives us some structure. That way, all of us, including the staff and the system, know what things we want to talk about during which months. So, thank you.
So are we looking to just add stuff to this, or this is a working document?
Yeah, we can add things if anyone has any items.
We did have, and I don't know what we got a list of important dates from the city 6 months ago that were rates oriented, I believe. That you have to give the rate recommendation so that then we can support it and get it to the city council by whenever. I think that would be a good thing to have on here, because that's gonna be year to year. And also, because the contract indicates that somebody from UCPC will be at the city commission meeting to either support or not the rates as shown. I'll find that and send it to
Okay,
you.
that sounds good.
I can resend it,
Okay.
if needed with specific dates for this year.
And then I would say that this becomes a task or agenda items table, so. Sounds good.
When I first saw the original agenda, I saw periodic table. I think we're gonna get into the chemistry.
Yes.
Different type.
New business, Appendix D amendments. So I think this is good. The only question I have is that, in item number 1, the 6,000 for full service street plus yard connection, main to meter, and then it says and 3,000.
So those are two separate items. I think the use of the word "and" was perhaps not the best selection for that. So the 6,000 describes what's currently shown in the ordinance, and that is a full service that goes from the location of the water main, commonly in the street, near or far side, and then all the way through the right of way, and then from the right of way all the way to where the meter is, commonly in the basement. The $3,000 for partial service, an example of this would be where we have water main, where the street service was installed during the project. Many developments are done this way, some capital improvement projects are done this way, and that allows folks that want to connect at a later point the ability to come in and just pay the $3,000 and connect, which we call that yard service. And it goes from back of the sidewalk or right-of-way line, if you will, then to the home.
So if you used or, it was one or the other, right?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, you're not gonna do $9,000 would be, you'd have like you have one street service and then 2 yard services, which we don't allow that. So, we can correct that language.
That's helpful, thank you. Any other?
So is this in front of us for approval?
Correct. Would like to request approval consideration for that, and, we can reflect in the minutes the change of "and" to "or." And then just some background, this is needed for us to engage all of our CIA projects and continue moving everything forward. If this was not approved, we would continue to follow the 2023 pricing schedule.
I'll move approval of Appendix D as amended.
I'll support.
Motion by Tom, second by John, to approve the Appendix D amendments for the reimbursable cost schedule as presented and with the one change. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. And then financials, consultants, billing, first quarter summary. This is, I think normally this would come in April and July. And I didn't talk directly with
Maybe it's
James,
this
so
document right there.
got it here. Okay, so this was to look at where we're at year to date. The UPC had asked to review this periodically.
I think it's a good summary, just helpful to remind us where we are and where we've been.
And year to date, there's nothing unusual, I don't see. Okay. Good, and this is information only.
I just will note, it shows that we did a lot of work to get this thing going in 2022, 23, so. Not that we won't have a lot more work to do, but I think we've accomplished a significant amount that will that we can rely on for years to come.
Agreed.
Next item is the professional services invoice approval. There is not an item from Avonmarsh, and we have the redeveloped.
The mayor's not here, so.
Sorry, not getting paid.
So I'll move that we pay the redeveloped invoice number 6355 in the amount of $329.
I'll support that.
There's a motion by Jeff Chamberlain, second by John Crum to accept the invoice, approve the invoice from redeveloped Hafner. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Move the approval of the invoice from Brian Newhoff, number 81332, in the amount of $494.80.
I'll support that.
Motion by Jeff, support by John to approve the Piner Newhoff invoice as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain?
Motion carries 5-0 and 1 abstention. Okay. Committee member, alternate, attendee, guest comments. First, anyone present wishing to comment?
I think just as an example of what goes on day to day, James, you wanna just, I'm putting you on a spot here. Sorry, you wanna just give a little update on the water main break this morning that's going on right now?
Yeah, sure, you know, we've got, up there in West Main, kind of between Pinehurst and Wealthy area. The main break is actually at Jennison. It's an area of Kalamazoo Township where there's not a lot of other, big roadways around. We had to do a full closure of West Main. And it's a 10-inch water main. It's a pretty catastrophic break, so it's, you know, heaved the roadway up and everything else. So crews were on that last night. They had to pull off. They hit their hours maximum for overtime for CDL drivers. And so we regrouped and came out this morning. We're working really hard to make sure that we do that job with a 3-gate shutdown, including bringing in another outside contractor to do some line freezing, because the next bigger shutdown area would be an 8-gate shutdown, which would include most of Westwood and West Side neighborhoods, pretty much the whole west side along West Main there, which would be pretty impactful for folks. So we're doing what we can to minimize the impacts of that. There is a pretty long detour in place. This is something that is very frustrating for a Kalamazoo Township neighborhood. Again, we didn't plan this. This is some of the unfortunate challenges of infrastructure. From a good news standpoint, you know, we are doing over 10 miles of main replacement in Kalamazoo Township right now. So there is new main going on Wealthy, on Pinehurst, on all these roads, but the main on West Main is not getting renewed at this time. So kind of found the one weak link, so to speak, and let go on us. So we're gonna continue to work on that, and there'll probably be some media updates throughout today as that project evolves.
Is it still running?
So we were able to get 2 gates shut last night, full closure, 33 turns. And then we got the gate that we're having trouble with closed, probably about 7/8 of the way down. I think we've got something like 28 or 29 turns on it. And so we were able to kind of slow it down, keep the system pressurized, and then give us time to you know, get those crew members home so that they could get their CDL requirement for off period and come back in the morning with new fresh crews and everything else.
So it happened yesterday afternoon?
I got a call from MDOT about I think about 8 p.m. last night. That
I drove through the detour last night. It wasn't
Okay.
big of a detail,
Yeah.
but That was about 8:30, so they were
Yeah.
really,
So I mean, it's just stuff that we all work with every day, a lot of the people around the table here, but actually, so now we're dealing with the county road commission, we're dealing with the state highway department and impacting, getting the water main fixed as fast as possible and trying to minimize the number of people who are gonna be impacted by the actual no water for a period of time.
Right.
So you're freezing to act as a valve or stop
Correct,
valve?
yeah, we're gonna do, what's commonly called a line stop in the industry. We're gonna use a portion of the pipe, freeze it solid. We use a kind of a liquid nitrogen system to freeze that line. It's a contractor city services that comes out and does that for us. And then if that holds and that's the plan, that gives us kind of a valve to act where we couldn't get the turns on that existing valve.
major.
It's a Thursday,
Yeah.
Better than Friday.
saying. And that's the nature of the business, right, is you just never know. You don't know where it's gonna happen, you don't know when it's gonna happen or what the magnitude of it will be. But fortunately, there's professionals around and crews that when they need to drop everything and get on it, that's what they do.
Any other comment from online attendees?
Thanks, Libby. It's a question, but I'll make a comment. I was just on the water main break was new information to me. This is Sherry from Oshtemo. I was just I'm on the City of Kalamazoo's news page. Do you know, James, will there be a press release going on about this? I mean, Kalamazoo Township and Oshtemo are neighbors, and we already have a significant number of detours. So I'm just wondering if there's a map or something that we can share on our local communication, social media, whatever, I can move that forward. I just wondered if there was any anticipated communication going out broadly.
Yeah, thanks, Sherry. This is James. So we're gonna be issuing the boil water advisory for that area. That doesn't really get into the traffic impacts. But MDOT has on their site, they're gonna show this on the MDOT site, and they're issuing a MDOT media release since they own the roadway. We'll try to grab that and get some links so that we can get that out to you folks, so that you could share that as well. And I know the road commission is also gonna be sharing it because the detour goes on road commission roadways, and we actually had to get permission from the road commission to enact this detour last night, and they were very good to work with and very supportive. So we don't issue the media releases because we don't own the roadway, so it's from MDOT, and we'll work to get that and get that out to folks as a link. So thanks for the comment, Sherry, it's certainly appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. All right, I will be on the lookout for that.
Any other member comments?
I'm good, thank you.
Steve? Jeff? I don't have anything either. So our next meeting is June 13th. And we have exhausted the agenda and we are adjourned. 9:16.
So when you freeze it,
Well, you shouldn't come in the door going, hey, the stupid
Flow?
detour for water main break may be late.
Get a partial close on the valve, that really helps.
Did you run into
So
it?
normally
You come down 131?